Howdy, y'all. This just in. Hotfix was released about 30 minutes ago. A bunch of nerfs to try to get a couple of things that were out of control in line. In case you're wondering, yeah, it included Money Tree. I think Money Tree's pretty useless now. We'll get into it when we get to the details, but that one hurt. I just released a guide on how to do Money Tree that I spent a lot of time on. I knew it had a shelf life of like 6 hours. I was just hoping it had a shelf life of 6 hours. It ended up having a shelf life of negative 30 minutes. So that one's brutal. If you want to watch that video for nostalgia's sake, or to get a preview of what our Pig Academy videos are going to look like, where we kind of do use screenshots and whatnot of all the various skills and stuff that work together. You can check that out, but probably not since the build's dead. But anyway, let's get into it. Howbazaar.gg is where you can go find the patch notes. And if you click up here, you'll see a little yellow dot up here, which tells you that there's a new patch note that you haven't looked at before. So here are the hot fixes. Some very needed Mac changes because Mac was a little out of control. Calcinator has been slowed down to 7 seconds. They've drastically reduced the scaling on the reagent. So now it's gold is where its silver used to be, essentially. So they took everything down a tier. And then also it costs you 3 gold to get a chunk of lead. Um, that's fine later because they kind of have infinite money because they keep converting that lead into like 10 gold. But early, that's a little brutal because you tend to spend all your money to get items. So you won't be able to get that gold unless you have you won't be able to get that gold unless you that lead unless you have the gold available. But more importantly, if you have gold at the start of the day, it's going to get eaten whether you have something to activate that lead or not. So that's kind of brutal and pretty interesting as a mechanic goes. A permanent item that sits in your stash and keeps eating gold, unlike something like this is an item that you need for power, so it's going to sit on your board. Unlike something like gumballs or piggy bank, where you could get rid of it as soon as you're done with the mechanic. These are things that are going to be your permanent board stays. So there's now feeding constant fuel into the fire. I kind of like the idea of that mechanic, but that's a pretty big nerf. That's going to make a lot of changes. Philosopher's Stone, thank fuck, got reduced. They reduced the scaling from multiples of 2 to multiples of 1. Um, thank God. I'm facing day 3 200 regen max that also have 200 burn damage both by the end of the fight. So yeah, that needed some fixing. Very happy to see that. Retort is getting the same treatment that Calcinator got. Again, a little brutal. It's going to cost you gold every day in order to get your chunk of lead. It's going to do it whether you want it to or not. That feels a little rough. So we'll see how that plays out. Next, still got a lot of great other builds and stuff. But yeah, we shall see. And amongst those other builds, importantly, is Mac has much more access to get specific small items for them because of the way that the gosh, I'm forgetting the name of it, but the new catalyst works. So I think he still had his floor raised by the overall changes, but this is a nerf to the things that were way out of control. Smelling salts now only charges when adjacent items slow. So this keeps you from having like a full board of slows that then spam charges haste to an item. So this keeps you from being able to like perma haste or perma get haste activations. Yeah, so that's fair because that was a little oppressive in a couple of boards. And then they made the same change to all of its enchantments. Here's the heartbreak for us. Good old Money Tree. It had to happen. We knew it had to happen. We just wanted another day to play with it because it was so damn fun. Went from 6 seconds to 4 second cooldown, and it no longer reduces its cooldown as it gains value. So it is just a 4 second cooldown thing that gets value as you sell spare change. It's pretty awful. A little bit faster than the old version. It's otherwise the old version. The old version was very, very, very hard to play. 4 seconds, I'm not imagining you're doing much with this. Now, if you give it a heal multiple of its value, like smaller than the other items, but some multiple of its value, um, as a multiplier onto its heal, then this can see play. But without the multiplier, it is just so much weaker than like a subscraper or a fixer or something like that that takes its value and multiplies it into combat. So yeah, I don't see that gaining any play anymore. Vanessa, they increased the value of Lockbox to kind of come up to have a little bit of parity with the monkey that they, with the monkey they released that also like adds value to your weapons. So trying to get that some play. I like that. And then Flurry of Blows, now the first 4 to 8 times you use a weapon, each fight you charge another item. So this keeps a spam. This was an obscenely strong single weapon build item because it could auto charge itself with one skill with no other activation. Like nothing else was necessary. Each weapon could simply charge itself by virtue of being a single weapon build, which was pretty impressive. So now it's used to charge another item, which is pretty weak. So we shall see if that gets play at all. But yeah, it was necessary. There was just start of combat weapon spamming that was instead of leading people. So that's helpful. So that's it. That's the patch notes. Not a lot, but all pretty impactful. So we're gonna have a whole new shakeup of the meta all over again. I still think Mac is probably on top right now. You're gonna see he's just so dominant in the mid game, and makes everybody else have to lose and go late. And then he still has builds that get pretty strong later on. I just think we're gonna have to fish a little to find what the best versions are, but he has so much ability to put those together because of the way that the new catalyst works. So anyway, that's it. Hope that was helpful. RIP Money Tree. Um, yeah, kind of depressed. Kind of knew I should not put that much time into building a guide for something that I knew was so ephemeral, but it was too fun, so I needed to. So anyway, rest in peace, Money Tree. Get out there, find something fun to play it fast, before it gets nuked from the sky.